abi şirket. a fund balance of 25%, that would be $904,000 and some change. So at the end of the year, we were actually within our fund balance, just a hair over 25%. Um, so, you know, one of the things that as you look at, you project where are we going to be in the next year. I mean, so a lot of times we've talked about, like in the ordinance per se, talked about the municipal cost index by adjusting it by that rate each year. So the municipal cost index for the end of the year basically was 2.9%. With what we're showing on here for a rate adjustment would be 2.43%, which is lower than the 2.9 that we had talked about. But what this does is that will bring us right at our fund balance of $904,000 and some change. So we're both, that way we would be within policy as we move forward. Now we have some projected numbers that are estimated numbers, and these are, the thing is, you got to think about it is these are all estimated. I wish we had like a magic wand and we knew exactly what the numbers, what the usage is going to be, but we don't. So these are that's where we're at as far as the electric fund would be right at a 2.43%.
Hey Les, can I say something real quick? I wanted to, before we get into each individual utility, the biggest thing that helped me understand all of this, because I just got into the Budget and Finance Committee last week, was to think of it as we have a savings account for each utility. We want to have money in that savings account to cover any expenses that we have throughout the year. Otherwise, we go to living paycheck to paycheck and possibly being negative. And when we have our mid-year, when we talk about it in July or June, like we did last year, if we're not where we need to be on our savings account, we have to try to recoup that money, and it ends up being an extremely inflated amount instead of just doing the smart thing, which is to slowly put money in our savings account every month, like most of us would do with our own money and our own funds. So that's just when he's talking about what it takes to why we're doing 2.5, whatever that percentage is. That's in order for us to pad those savings accounts for each utility to within policy, which is 15 to 25%. If that helps. Sorry. Thanks.
So one of the things is that when you look at the fund balance policy reserves, is what that includes is, we look at what the annual operations fees as well as what the debt expenses. So with how it's set up, we're not looking at what our contract prices are for what it costs us to purchase the electric, because the thought process is that one, we would be able to sell that out on the marketplace to recoup that. So we don't need to have reserves for that. So basically, overall, the electric fund would truly need like a 2.43% increase.
Fund, the spike in the prices for the cost for materials. ordinance says, if the council doesn't take any action, the ordinance says we automatically anything else you guys want to add?
You know, if I can, thank you. Before I came here tonight, can everyone hear me? Hopefully you can. I did a little research today because I caught an interesting article that nationwide energy utility electricity nationwide is up an average of 7%. So I'm out here going, well, that's just something they threw out there. Anyone can throw a number out there, right? So I spent about 45 minutes to an hour researching online, verifying that the fact that I saw the 7% increase nationwide average for electrical rates was correct. There's no, to use my term earlier, smoke and mirrors. It is on a nationwide average of 7%. So my point being, we are coming in below the nationwide average, well below the nationwide average. But like everything else, things increase, but right now that's where we are. So I just wanted to point that out, okay? Thank you.
Can we go to the next slide? Can we go to the next slide? So hopefully this looks familiar from the way we presented the rate structure from our July meeting. And really all this does is take the numbers that you saw in the last spreadsheet as far as our expenses, being about 6 million. And this shows you how the rate that we need to meet these expenses. So those different colors are expenses that the utility has. The orange is the bond debt that we have to pay, just like any other loan that you all take. We have an annual amount that that's going to take. The dark greens are distribution organization within the electric utility. Then there's production, and we also have administration. And the bottom one is the wholesale purchase power. So we have contracts with 5 or 6 energy providers. So we have 20 years. So we have a 20-year, 20 to 30-year contracts that fix our costs. So we know fairly well what those are going to be for the package.
Hopefully that'll help. Good call. So there are fluctuations that we can have in that cost as well. That's not a fixed cost. If our providers have fuel spikes in the cost to generate electricity to us, it goes up, they pass that along to us. So we have to have the ability to pass that along as well, because all of us as citizens, we pay all of these rates for this electricity. So this just shows you kind of how much is going to each one of those, and then the rates developed by taking our kilowatt hours that we estimate we're gonna buy and dividing it by that, and you get that per kilowatt hour rate. It's really that simple. That should get you a break-even amount. So those of you that were at the last one, this should look familiar. Okay. Now this one, if you remember two years ago, I think it was, maybe 3, I think it was 2 years ago, we actually changed the billing form. And if you guys look at your bills, you'll see in the water, your water bill has I think, what do we call it right now? The meter debt? Yeah, it's called the meter debt fee. We're changing that to bond debt fee. But what that is the annual amount that the utility has to pay for the principal and interest for their debt. All the bonds they use for the infrastructure, some capital leases for equipment. So what we've done in the water and what we're planning to do in electric this year is pull that out as a separate line item. So you'll see what that amount is. You know, every month, it'll be fixed for the year, because we'll set it for the year, and it'll be that much every month that everybody's gonna pay, and that's gonna pay for the debt for that utility. And so it's paying for the infrastructure and all those things. It's baked into the rate right now, you just can't see it. Okay, and we'll kind of walk you through how that is. So the bottom line is, your amount you pay does not change. Only thing that changes is how it's represented on your bill. And we'll show you an example of that. Unfortunately, you probably can't see that, but the bottom line is that the bar on the left, you can see the blue is, this is an example of somebody that would say buy or use 1,000 kilowatt hours in a month. If the rate was 0.1722 for the year that we set through that last process, you would see on your bill the EL electric, which everybody has, it would show $172.20. Straight math. The franchise fee is on every utility, it's 6%, it's its own line. And then the fuel adjustment, as we talked about, is if our purchase power agreement companies that we buy power from, they've got in their contracts with everybody, if the price of natural gas or whatever they're using spikes, they can pass on a threshold above what they committed to sell electricity to us for. So our contract with them is a minimum, but there really isn't a maximum, and that's the way everybody does it. So we have to have a way to also follow that, right? So if we don't, if our costs for the power keep going up and we don't charge it to anybody, again, that reserve fund is gonna go away very quickly. So that's part of what our rate structure is. It's passed through. There is not always an amount there. Sometimes it's negative. If their costs were lower, we've passed negative amounts through. But just so you know what that is. So all we're doing, the new electric bill format, we're adding that bond debt payment line. In that yellow section up on the right side, it's simply being pulled out of that blue section. So your rate's gonna go down for your blue section. Instead of paying 1.772, you'd be paying 0.1447. And so your rate for your actual energy use is gonna go down, but you can have a separate line for the debt payment that you didn't have before. You add those two together, you're gonna get the exact same amount. So hopefully that gives you an idea of when you see your bill, what's going on.
Okay, so, sorry. The next one is the water fund forecast. So, just to kind of get you up to speed with that, we buy all of our water, it comes from Lawrence. So we just received a rate increase from them, and that is we pay a fee for raw water as well as treated water. So that increase that they passed on to us is right at 9%. For the 26 year. So when we ended the year of 25, we ended with almost $267,000 in our fund balance. Now, to be in policy, to be between the 15% to 25%, 15% is $402,000 and some change. Now on the top end, that's $670,000. So as you can tell, with the $267,000 that the ending balance was, we are still underneath what our fund policy states. Up here on this, it'll show a 4.5% increase. With a 4.5% increase, and if all the numbers were the same, for 26, as they were in 25, we would end the year at $328,000. So we would roughly still be $72,000 underneath our fund policy requirement. So kind of how we're showing it on here is, you know, council, depending on how they move for this forward, is showing a 4.5% increase this year, and then a 5% increase for the next year for the water. Now, even with the 5% increase for in 27, we're roughly still going to be, 37, 30, well, a little bit more than that. We're going to be, because then we'd have to be at a fund balance just because of cost and changes. The fund balance would have to be at 421,000 and some change, and we would come in at 363,000. So we would still be underneath the policy. So with the water fund, it's going to take several years of multiple increases, or the council could decide to do an 8.5% increase for this year, and then by doing that, we would be at our reserve at that point. The next one we're going to talk about is wastewater. So where we ended 25 at was roughly $59,659. The fund balance at 15% is $226,000. So we're a ways away from even hitting our fund balance. The way we're kind of looking at it, just to show the council, is probably an 8.15% increase this year, and then next year would be like a 7.9% increase. It's going to take roughly 3 years to be able to get that fund balance up to where it needs to be. One of the things about wastewater is we have not done any MCI adjustments. We have not touched the wastewater fund making any adjustments since 2023. But even with these increases in the wastewater fund, we're still projected to be way below where the policy fund balance needs to be at the end of the day.
Obviously, it's hard to listen to all these numbers and follow along. This is on the web. You can go to the council packet. If you want it emailed to you, please let Russ know. We'll email it to you. Call him, let him know, and then if it generates more questions, we'll open up for questions here. Happy to answer them. Anybody on the council, myself, Russ, any of the department heads would answer those. So don't feel like this is the last chance you're going to get to understand this and provide feedback before the council makes a rate decision, which we need to do by ordinance by our next meeting in 2 weeks. So we got this 2-week period to have that conversation. The council needs to be thinking about, what we want to do regarding these rates, where we want to put them. The numbers we showed were just kind of some placeholders to give you an idea of where we would be with our fund balance and our policy. So with that, if you guys have anything else to add, we'll open up for questions.
Scott, I'm just gonna pick on your mind there for a second, telling everyone here my electric bill is $212 a month on level payment. What's it gonna raise if we pass these increases? How much?
What's that again?
My electric bill is $212 a month. I am on level payment. What's the increase on my electric bill?
So the bill, everybody's bill rate would increase by the 2.4%. And, the percentages increase, so some of that's going to go on the debt payment, that's going to increase slightly as well. So it really depends on how much kilowatt hours a person uses.
Just an average amount,
So the average for the whole utility is 2.4%.
Okay,
So,
Just utility, not the whole bill.
right.
We gotta clarify that.
oh, thank you. Yeah. So a unique thing about Baldwin is we put all your bills together, even, outside contractors like trash. So you see the total, and that's all the services. In a lot of cities, you get an electric bill, you get a water bill, and you see them individually, and they don't look as big. But when you get the Baldwin bill, you see that total, and looks larger than, you know, you might have seen in like in another city. So just to Corey's point, just be aware of that when you look at your bill. We're looking at ways to maybe segment it out, separate pages to make it more easily understand what you're paying for electricity, what you're paying for water, what you're paying for sewer and trash. All right. We'll open it up for questions. I'd step to the microphone unless you had something to add.
I was just gonna say, if anybody has a question but wants to see this first to bring something up, I'm happy to
Yeah.
share mine with you, so.
My question, the printouts?
Yeah.
There are no printouts. I'm in the front row and can't read jack up there, so.
Right. Yeah, I'll give it away.
Thank you. My question is with regard to, has there been,
Before you get started,
Yeah, my
name and address for us.
my name's Nathaniel Schoenberg. The address is 203 Wesley Street. I have a question with regard to what has been done to cut costs. All we've heard about is the amount of revenue we have is this much, our expenses are this much, we need a little more revenue. What's been done to address cost? And also, one thing we noticed was an increase in the meter reading rate. I can't remember exactly what it was. It was gonna be like $15 or something, a meter reading rate. That seems high. Okay.
Oh. Yeah.
Okay, is that a change in name?
We changed the name, and it's that debt payment now. It's
Okay.
pulling that out of your rate and putting it on its own line.
Okay, that makes a
Just
lot
that.
more
So-
sense.
So the thing is as our debt drops off, that will go down
Okay,
every year. If we have to borrow a bond, that's exactly where it's gonna go, right in that line. So it's not a meter fee anymore. It's a debt payment fee.
okay, all right.
It's always been a debt payment fee, but it was just the word.
It was per meter, so they just called it a meter fee.
Okay, cool, thank you. So the first part was about cost savings.
Oh.
So as far as cost savings, we're always looking for ways to save money as a utility. Currently, we have a skeleton crew that work in the electric utility. We have 4 regular guys, and then we have, one director. The director, 9 times out of 10, is out there in the field with his guys, making sure that, stuff is getting fixed. We don't, they're not spending extra money just to spend extra money. They look for ways to save. When we try to buy electric poles, we try to buy them at a truckload rate so that we can get a huge discount savings as opposed to just ordering, a couple poles at a time. Those are some of the little things that myself, as well as the director, as well as even our workers look for as far as trying to find ways to save money so that in the end it saves money for you all.
I'll throw my 2 cents in. I mean, every year when we build the budget, that's what we're looking at. I mean, your largest cost is gonna be your personnel cost. And all what's going on with health insurance. Those are some things that are difficult to try to control. So I think the utility directors can tell you, and you're all welcome to show up to the budget workshops where we talk about each utility and what they're spending the money on and what they need to spend their money on. And it's a back and forth. Like I can tell you, there's no director in any of these utilities get nearly as much as they need for that year. So a lot of stuff gets delayed. So That's the hardest part, is finding the cost savings, and we welcome anybody to help us figure that out. But some of the things you just can't, because it's the cost of having people work for you, which is your biggest cost.
I have a real quick example. Before I officially, trying to not stand underneath one of these speakers, before I officially joined the council, I went to one of the utilities meetings, and one of the things that stood out to me that I thought was pretty amazing is they were working on the substation, figured out that we were gonna have a contracting company come in and do a lot of the work. We were over budget on that substation, so the head of, you can correct me on the details, but that guy that you're talking about, who is our lead guy, our guy that has all the knowledge, decided, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna use this as an opportunity to save money for the citizens in the city and use it to have a knowledge transfer session, which is very important. If you came to the last committee meeting or council meeting, that's a pretty strong thing to do if you want to mentor anybody and make them knowledgeable and great at their jobs. So he's using those greenhorns basically to teach all of his knowledge and save us money at the same time. So those kind of things are happening across the board for all of our city workers. I feel like they do a great job of being budget friendly and working within the constraints of what it is to be a city of this size and still try to survive.
Name and address?
My name's Al Holloway. I live at 302 Washington Street. I'm just curious how it is that my electric bill went from $250 a month to damn near $5. That's a lot more than 10% or 2.5% or 7 or 8. You're talking about north of 100%.
Yeah, there's no way to answer that unless we saw your bill and how much usage you
Well,
had.
maybe somebody at City Hall can go look it up and find out what made that do that, because I haven't changed how I use electricity. The only thing that might have changed it was all these increases, and I can't imagine it changing it by 100%.
No, it shouldn't have.
Well, it did. That last bill was almost $500. That's starting to look more like a commercial account than a residential.
I would say just bring it into the city and we'll take a look at it.
Well, I don't get hard copies. It comes in over the desk business.
Pull it up, yeah.
When did you notice that increase, by the way? Was that just recently or was
4
that?
months ago, the last 2 months, the one from last month was the one that was almost $500. From my perspective, that's downright outrageous. You're making this place uninhabitable.
I can make you feel better.
You're gonna lose your tax base is what you're gonna lose.
Mine went from 500 to 900.
Yeah, well, I don't know if that's gonna make either one of us feel better.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, everybody's rate changed the same percentage. So the only thing that be happening is for some reason you're using more electricity.
I shouldn't have been.
You're just talking.
I shouldn't have been unless there's something wrong with that meter. And I just put in all new electrical from the pole to the house,
So we would
to
look
the
at that,
barn.
we'd look at the usage, we'd look at the rate, make sure it was calculated right, and then it's coming back to why did the usage go so high? And then we'd have to figure that out with you.
It shouldn't,
We can test the meter, there's
yeah.
a cost to doing that, but if we think the meter's bad, then there are things we can do.
Well, I don't know if that meter's gone bad or not. It's been there for several years. Yeah. Al Holloway, 302 Washington Street. The bill's listed under Katie, so the bill's listed under Katie. You might want to look it up under my wife's name.
Okay. And what is, if you want to come and talk to me after
Yeah,
Thank you, Emery.
yeah, yeah.
And then the young lady back here who said hers doubled. Hang on, Paula.
And it's 817 Dearborn Street.
Here you go. That's what she can hear for sure.
Sure.
Got it? How are you? Okay, I'll turn it back over. Thank you, Emery.
Questions? We've got 10 plus minutes left. Gentlemen, walking up from the back. Yes.
Hello, hello. My name is Jeremiah Stanley. My address is 1322 High Street. Just a couple of things. Number one, I wanted to say I appreciate the transparency as far as I remember the last one of these. People were not very happy about the increases, the sudden increases. Neither was I. But the fact that since then I've noticed, at least when going to pay my bill at the utility office, that like stuff like this gathering here, there was a paper for that. So just want to say thanks for that. But also, as far as, or on the same topic as notices, whenever you folks make the final decisions regarding these increases, and maybe somebody's already asked this, but maybe a time frame, and how can we find out what you guys have decided, or will it just be on the website?
Basically, the council needs to make a decision at the next council meeting. That would be the third Tuesday in February at 7 o'clock. So that's when the final decision would need to have to be made at that point. From there, we also send it out. It's in the newspaper, and then we're also putting it online, as well as it will be posted, down at City Hall for people to see.
Right on. So newspaper, city hall, and online?
And we do post it in the Lawrence Journal World as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Elizabeth Smith, 608 11th Street. The water, both of them are getting raised. That's my understanding. And the debt is pretty below, is how I understood it too. Below where it needs to be, correct? The debt, the reserve for both of those is below where it's supposed to be. Is this another case like it was with the electricity where it was mismanaged, not taken care of all this time along, so now we're making up for the mismanagement? Is that a correct statement?
I'm going to tell you it wasn't mismanaged. I'm going to tell you that expenses that were unforeseen hit us in the wastewater. We had 1 year that drove the reserve down to actually negative. And in water, we're within, we're always positive. So that's the first thing our financial advisors will tell you. You can't go negative, so we're always positive. It's just a matter of how quickly you want to creep up to the policy. We could go 8.5% right now and be at the minimum policy.
Well, that's,
And so it's a trade-off of how much do you want to ask from your citizens today, this year, versus a little bit next year and a little bit next year. We could ask for all this year and then be okay.
no, next year you'll come and ask for more. That's kind of the trend I'm seeing.
So you're absolutely correct. We can ask for it all today, or we can ask you this, it's the payment plan. Part of it today, this year, part of it next year. And that's a council decision. They can come and ask, we could set it to where the reserve fund will be healthy at the end of the year. So that's going to be an 8.5% increase to do that.
Okay, and that's an 8.5 on each one of the water things?
It was 8.5 on the wastewater. It was 4.5 on the water.
Okay, so we're looking at 12 some odd percent right there on top of the 2.5 for the electric.
They're not add, you don't add them up. Each one is for its own utility.
Well, but still, it's gonna add up when we pay it.
It is, but it's not the same increase. If you have one of the small utilities bills and you have a large increase, what comes out of your pocket might be less than a small increase with a large bill. So you can't just assume your bills are going up a total of 12%. It depends on how much water you use, how much electricity you use. It'll vary for everybody. Does that make sense?
Okay. In its own little weird way, you can describe it that way. And another thing, these are useless, and without any kind of a printout ahead of time, it's just someone up here talking numbers, and I can't tell what's what, and I refuse to believe them alone. Thank you.
I wanted to toss something in. At the last forum, when we were having the first discussion about this, it never got mentioned, and I think it's kind of maybe been forgotten about a little bit, but I think I was right where we were at. The word mismanagement is being tossed around a little bit, and I think I have to remind everybody, and I think I have to remind you guys too, the 2020 budget year and the 2021 budget year, the pandemic was hitting, and we were looking for any cent we could not to raise and try to put money back into the customers' pockets. And we've had those budget meetings trying to find ways to span everyone's bill out, spread things out, save money. So it does tighten the window a little bit when you put in that kind of context. We did have 2020 and 2021 where there was no way we could have raised any rates at all, regardless of whether we needed to or not. And that just needs to be, I think, maybe remembered.
A couple of things. 40 years ago, I lived in a small town in Illinois, and I was on level pay with my electric bill. My house was 960 square feet, 5 windows in the entire house. And my level pay for electricity, 12 months of the year, was $136 for electricity. That was not gas, that was not water. And the level pay kept going up, and I brought it in and I said, I'm using less, I'm doing everything I can. And the lady basically said, well, rates are going up. You know, suck it up. Anyway, I look around the room today, and I'm going, most of us are north of retirement age. And if we're not north of it, we're approaching it, which means fixed budgets. And a fixed budget is groceries go up. Well, I don't buy milk. I don't use as much butter. I haven't bought beef in a long time. I just don't. You find another way. But when it comes to water or keeping warm or even circulating the air without the air conditioner, we need the utilities. And we have to have them in order to survive. And if we want an older community in this town, things have to be attractive and manageable by the older community. I would encourage you to, with increase, I totally understand there's always going to be increases. Do it step by step. A 2% increase, yes, it's an increase, but it's much better than an 8%. And I understand that you have to have a cushion. That makes sense. Good management of money. However, maybe we should look to see, is that cushion a little too inflated? Maybe we don't need 25%, maybe we need 22%. Just a thought. And I do appreciate that on the utility bills, it is compared to last year, how much water I used last year. how much electricity I used that month. And it gives the entire 12 months. So I do appreciate that a lot. But keep in mind that, and it's not an easy job being a councilman on the city. You're trying to represent a whole group of people that have different ideas, that have definitely different abilities to pay, and lifestyles, whatever, you know. I don't envy you your job. But do keep in mind that there's just so much we can cut corners on to pay a bill. I know I can't cut my garbage bill. Whether I have one bag of garbage out there or none or 5, fill up that entire container. It's still gonna be the same. But I can cut other areas. I don't go out to eat, or I don't buy such and such, or you use coupons. It's a huge, huge problem, and it's not something that can be attacked just from one angle. It really has to be attacked from many different sides. How do you increase our budget? How do we, and it can't be just from us. It has to be attract other people in here to spend some money here. And we can use that money if we can funnel it in. Here again, I don't know the rules. How you funnel that money into paying utilities so that the people of the town they can realize the benefit. It's all very nice to say, oh, we have lovely people coming in, we have shops they go to, but if I don't see a benefit of it, it's just more people on the road. It slower service when I go into the restaurant. Do you understand what I'm saying? I do appreciate what you do, and the bill is very clear. I find that very helpful. And like I said, 40 years ago, I spent $136 every month. So if you added that up and put it in today's terms, it'd be a lot more than I'm paying now. So I'm not complaining about that. I just, moving forward, just keep in mind that we all have gray hair here, okay? And we move slower.
Thank you for your comments. Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me.
Okay, just real quick. My name is Matt Kirby. I live at 103 High Street. Russ and I had this conversation at a planning committee. I'm also on the planning commission. We had this conversation after one of the meetings about how the funds needed to be trickled into, like charging a battery. Thank you. Typically I view the power company of Baldwin City as typically a good deal. I have found my electricity rates generally here to be lower than in other places, and I appreciate. The other fact is that we don't get power outages the way other parts of the country get power outages because we have our own generating capabilities here, and that's not a small thing. And I do appreciate those things. There's been some pretty stiff increases in the bill lately, but I'm doing my best to deal with that. But we are, and I mean we, as a community, are a power company. Has there been any kind of a mention of us becoming a net energy producer? Would that have any economy of scale? Would that chip away at our bills? Do we have a way of retailing power out to the world, I guess is the question. So anyway, I guess this all goes back to the vision of that Professor Bauer from Baker University, who put the first generator in when he figured Baldwin could be electrified. And we find ourselves here now, and this is the legacy. Anyway, generally speaking, the work you guys do, I think, is really well crafted, with building the new power line and the new substation and all of that. And I do appreciate it, but I get it that it's a tough nut to crack. But yes, I've been noticing my bill's been going up, and I would appreciate it if it didn't go up so much. Thanks. Anyway.
I was just gonna, on the comment, some great thoughts and ideas. We wrestle a lot as a council during budget season. and rate settings, and how do we make this affordable for the full spectrum of socioeconomic citizens? That is the challenge. And unfortunately, it's right now it's everybody's under the same rate. It's just like one rate for everybody. If you've got ideas or hear of other communities that have a different rate structure based on something other metric, that I don't know how you would do it, but if that's what we wrestle with, how can you make it more affordable as a percent of someone's budget as you have different incomes? And there's just been no way we've found that you can fairly do that. Is it a means test? You have to bring in your W-2s. So open for suggestions. It's a great idea. We wrestle with it. We haven't figured it out. And no, we can't transfer, sales tax revenue. It goes to the general fund over to the utilities. The utilities need to stand on their own. That's why, so the sales tax goes to our general funds, police, fire, streets, public works. So that's, those are pretty well segmented, and you kind of want it that way so that you're not taking from one entity and spending on another, what might be a separate group of people. They get advantage of that. So the answer to that question is, we ask the same thing, and that's a no-no. We also talked about would love to generate power and sell it and make money. We'd be competing against the averages of the world. We would not be able to afford. The cost for us to generate a kilowatt hour way higher than what we buy it for. So we'd have to put in more we have just enough generators to support our community plus some growth for the next 5+ years. We'd have to add more generators, and then there's no guarantee that we could do it. So it's just we're not in a business to sell power. We're in a business to sell enough power that you guys need at the lowest possible cost, and that's what we wrestle with every year. So. You didn't have anything? No, go ahead.
Hi, some of you I know, some of you I don't. I am Stacy Anderson, and I have spoken to Peter quite a bit and to you, Jerry, and it's been a while since I've been to a council meeting, but I don't have any well thought out script that I was going to come in here with. I kind of posted for you guys, and I hope that there would have been a larger turnout, but I also informed you, Peter and Jerry, that I just wouldn't expect it. And I'm just going to speak from my heart and what I put on my page, and everybody knows how open I am about what has happened in the previous governing body and where we're heading at now. I've done my due diligence to acquire information from Peter, from Jerry, from calling the Lawrence Water Department to find out exactly what is going on and why we're getting asked for an increase right now. I posted in hoping that people would come to the meeting, more people, but as it was clearly stated, you see that the generation we have here are the older people, and it's very sad that more people didn't come to speak up about it, because you made a promise to me that if people came and they spoke up and said, you know what, we just can't do it right now, you would hold off on that. I posted it, and I'm going to hold you to your word, because that's what you said. The fact that people are not here, I also encouraged them to email you. I don't know if they did, if you received any, but it is quite a shame to me that so many people complain last year when we got hit so hard and complain about it, but nobody's willing to come here and speak about it. Nobody's willing to say anything on any of the community pages against what is going on. It's only when they get hit with that bill and it's like, whoa, what the heck are we going to do? Because, as it was clearly stated, it's you buy this or you buy that, or you cut back or you do without, and that is not how we should have to live. Getting from Jerry and from Peter, because I haven't spoken to you guys much recently, but you assured me when I spoke to you before I even voted for you guys to be here, that you were for the community, and what was going on was wrong. What happened with all the increases and how hard we hit, it was wrong because you two are community members, you all are community members, and you pay the same prices that we do. But I also trusted that maybe you wouldn't come in and ask for an increase right off the bat. I think a lot of people trusted in that because that's what you said. You're looking out for the community, but I don't see that in any way as looking out for the community. I've pretty much posted my information, what I've gathered from you, the Lawrence Water Department, Peter, and talking to you. And from what I gather, the last increase brought in enough to put back in reserve to where you're not in the red. You don't absolutely need this increase right now because it is split out into three parts: water, sewer, electric. You are not in the red in any of those areas from the last increase that we were hit with. To hit the people with another increase at this time, to me, is just absurd, and I don't even know why it's on the table, because first and foremost, although I did not go to your Q&A sessions, I heard enough to know that there were some promises made that you guys weren't going to come in and try and hit us with an increase right off the bat, but here we're in 1 month. And if you guys weren't following along what was going on with the previous governing body and the way that things were going and where our money was not going to, as we were told it was going to, as we were hit with each increase over the water, electric, trash, all of that, none of that money went to fix the infrastructure. None of that money went to fix any of the problems that we have that needed to be addressed for, say, building a new substation, or the maintenance of the substation we have now, or the fact that we can barely use that substation enough to keep this town afloat on electricity. And I'm going to quote you on that, Peter, because I said that I was going to be true and honest, and that's what I am. But that's simply not true. You're not in the red. Are you where you need to be with the reserves? No. We've been blood dry for 8 years, and I try to tell everybody that, and if you guys have been paying attention, you know we were blood dry. The money didn't go where it was supposed to. I'm just about done.
Let me kind of ask this.
Sure.
I asked that you please go through and, be considerate of time.
Absolutely.
Sorry, we've got council, we have to start at 7.
Absolutely, I'm just about done. Sure.
Keep in mind, we need to get started on.
Sure, I'm just about done, Jerry. I was just getting there, so thanks for that. Again, I'm just going to be honest. I told you guys that if you could put it off, that would be great, because to hit us now is just absurd. The community cannot afford it, whether we're old, whether we're young, whether we're single mothers, families, whatever. We cannot absorb another increase at this time. I would ask, and I'm sure that the majority of the community, although they're not here, they would ask too, that you guys take into consideration and maybe put off this increase because you are not in the red and don't need the money, that you put it off to maybe, let's say, August. Don't hit us right now. Don't hit us in June when we're running our AC and we have to do without it. There is enough money to keep us afloat until at least August. And I would ask that everybody do their due diligence to investigate this, ask questions, and to know that this information is true and correct, and that you and the board members take that into consideration and really do what is best for Baldwin, as you so committed to do, and not hit us with an increase now. We're in June, but wait until a little later in the year. 5 months of recouping money is good. Yep, we're good. I said what I needed to say.
Right, we do have open forum.
Yeah, absolutely. I said I would.